Greetings, friends. What in the world is the Lord teaching you today that will help you better serve Him? Well, I thought I would open up with the Treasury of David. I've shown you this book before by Charles Spurgeon. We're going to look at Psalm 5 tonight. Psalm 5. Let me read it from the King James Version. Psalm 5, verse 9. For there is no faithfulness in their mouth. Their inward part is very wickedness. Their throat is an open sepulchre. They flatter with their tongue. And then verse 10, destroy thou them, O God. Let them fall by their own counsels. Cast them out in the multitude of their transgressions, for they have rebelled against thee. This is an imprecatory psalm of David, I believe. You'd think that you should love your enemies and forgive them, right? Well, that's what Jesus taught. Now, this is from the Old Testament, though. And while Spurgeon says we can forgive our enemies, we cannot forgive God's enemies. There are people who are God's enemies. They've made themselves God's enemies by their very evil, their very wicked plans. For example, the people that are behind the New World Order, the global elite, the people that might have been behind these fires in Malibu, and Pacific Palisades, and Pasadena, Altadena, and other parts of California. In fact, any of the things that are going on by the New World Order people, these have made themselves the enemies of God. These are the very depraved of the earth who are reprobates. They are under the judgment of God. But they will not win. You cannot defeat God. You in turn will be defeated, okay? Know that. If there's a slim possibility of you watching my video, you're beyond hope. For the most part. I don't think any of these people can become saved. There's a certain point in which you pass, in which you trespass against God's law, and God turns you over to a reprobate mind. We read about that in Romans, okay? God gives you up because you have purposed in your heart to rebel against God and to do evil. It's like the devil. Is there any redemption for Satan? No. No, he was one of the fallen angels, Lucifer, the greatest of the angels, but he fell and left his first estate. Took about a third of the angels with him. All right, let me read what Spurgeon says in the Psalms of David, or the Treasury of David, excuse me. Verse 9, Psalm 5. This description of depraved man, don't be afraid of that word depraved. It's a good word. Depraved. This description of depraved man has been copied by the Apostle Paul, and together with some other quotations, he has placed it in the 2nd chapter of Romans as being an accurate description of the whole human race, not of David's enemies only, but of all men by nature. Note that remarkable figure. Their throat is an open sepulchre, a sepulchre full of loathsomeness, of miasms, of pestilence and death. But worse than that, it's an open sepulchre with all its evil gases ensuing forth, so spread forth, or rather to spread death and destruction all around. So with the throat of the wicked, it would be a great mercy if it could always be closed. If we could seal in continual silence the mouth of the wicked, it would be like a sepulchre shut up. It would not produce much mischief, but their throat is an open sepulchre, or tomb. That's what a sepulchre is, a tomb. Consequently, all the wickedness of their heart exhales and comes forth. How dangerous is an open sepulchre or tomb! Men in their journeys might easily stumble therein and find themselves among the dead. Imagine walking across an open tomb and falling therein, and there's nothing but dead men's bones there, or rotting flesh from a corpse, from a dead body. How would that set with you? A ghastly thought, isn't it? Take heed of the wicked man, for there is nothing that he will not say to ruin you. He will long to destroy your character and bury you in the hideous sepulchre of his own wicked throat. One sweet thought here, however, at the resurrection there will be a resurrection, not of bodies, but of characters. This should be a great comfort to a man who has been slandered and abused, or has been abused and slandered, Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun. The world may think you vile and bury your character, but if you have been upright in the day when the grave shall give up their dead, this open sepulchre of the sinner's throat will be compelled to give up your heavenly character, and you shall come forth and be honored in the sight of men. They flatter with their tongue. Or as we might read it, they have an oily tongue, a smooth tongue. A smooth tongue is a great evil. Many have been bewitched by it, tricked by it, deceived by it. There be many human anteaters that with their long tongues covered with oily words entice and entrap the unwary and make their gain thereby. An anteater. I just went to the San Diego Zoo and I took a picture of an anteater. Quite a strange looking creature with its long snout. And this particular anteater was burying itself, his nose, into this dirt, just digging, looking for ants. It's amazing, isn't it? It's a hideous looking creature, I think. But it was doing what it does best, hunting for ants. So, there be many human anteaters that with their long tongues covered with oily words entice and entrap the unwary and make their gain thereby. When the wolf licks the lamb, he is preparing to wet his teeth in its blood. When the wolf licks the lamb, he is preparing to wet his teeth in its blood. I'm telling you, Spurgeon had quite a way with words, didn't he? Now, verse 10, destroy thou them, O God, let them fall by their own counsels, cast them out in the multitude of their transgressions, for they have rebelled against thee. This is true of those who are reprobate, who have a reprobate mind, who are cast away, who are adokimos, as the Greek word says, adokimos, reprobate, as it's translated. A castaway, somebody who is under the judgment and wrath of God that will be annihilated someday after they suffer the torments that they deserve for rejecting God, for hardening themselves against God. Yeah, you can harden yourself against the truth. Remember that song by Pat Benatar? I'm going to harden my heart. I'm going to swallow my tears. Well, that's a very dangerous attitude to have. A very dangerous attitude. He who being often reproved hardeneth his neck shall be cut off, and that without remedy. Shall be suddenly cut off, I think is the way the proverb says, and that without remedy. He who hardeneth his neck, I believe is how the verse goes. I might have misquoted it. All right, Spurgeon says, against thee, not against me. If they were my enemies, I would forgive them. But I cannot forgive thine enemies. We are to forgive our enemies, but God's enemies is not in our power to forgive. Do you understand? You see, we have to think God's thoughts after him. If God is purposed to destroy somebody, who are you to try to save them? Basically, is what he's saying. These expressions have often been noticed by men of over-refinement, of being harsh and grating on the ear. Oh, say they are vindictive and revengeful. Let us remember that they might be translated as prophecies, not as wishes. But we do not care to avail ourselves of this method of escape. We have never heard of a reader of the Bible who, after perusing these passages, was made revengeful by reading them. And it is but fair to test the nature of a writing by its effects. When we hear a judge condemning a murderer, however severe his sentence, we do not feel that we should be justified in condemning others for any private injury done to us. The psalmist here speaks of a judge, ex officio. He speaks as God's mouth, and in condemning the wicked, he gives us no excuse whatsoever, or whatever, for uttering anything in the way of malediction upon those who have caused us personal offense. The most shameful way of cursing another is by pretending to bless them. We were all somewhat amused by noticing the toothless malice of that wretched old priest of Rome when he foolishly cursed the Emperor of France with his blessing. He was blessing him in form and cursing him in reality. Now, in direct contrast, we put this healthy condemnation of David, which is intended to be a blessing, by warning the sinner of the impending curse. O impenitent man, be it known unto thee that all thy godly friends will give their solemn assent to the awful sentence of the Lord, which he shall pronounce upon thee in the day of doom. In the day of doom. Our verdict shall applaud the condemning curse which the judge of all the earth shall thunder against the godless. In the following verse, we once more find the contrast which has marked the preceding Psalms. Now, this is what Spurgeon has said. Now, if we turn over a little bit further, we'll get the commentary of others. Let's see now. Let me see if I can find some. We're in verse 9. Let's see what we find here. Their throat is an open sepulchre. This figure graphically portrays the filthy conversation of the wicked. Nothing could be more abominable to the senses than an open sepulchre or tomb, when a dead body beginning to putrefy steams forth its tainted exhalations. Its tainted exhalations. What proceeds out of their mouth is infected and putrid. And as the exhalation from a sepulchre proves the corruption within, so it is with the corrupt conversation of sinners. Robert Haldane, Exposition of the Epistle to the Romans, 1835. Yeah, if you don't have a good commentary on the book of Romans, I recommend you buy Robert Haldane's commentary on Romans. I have it on my library. I haven't read it for many years until recently, but I haven't read the whole thing through, but that's supposed to be one of the best. Robert Haldane, Haldane. All right. Now, verse 10. Let's read what he says here. This is maybe somebody else that's commenting here. All those portions where we find apparently prayers that breathe revenge are never to be thought of as anything else than the breathed assent of righteous souls to the justice of their God, who taketh vengeance on sin. When taken as the words of Christ himself, they are no other than an echo of the intercessor's acquiescence at last in the sentence on the barren fig tree. The barren fig tree. It is as if he cried aloud, "Hew it down now. I will intercede no longer. The doom is righteous. Destroy them." Yeah, I understand the fig tree in the scripture represents the nation of Israel. I don't know if that's true, but I heard a sermon today about Christ looking for fruit on a fig tree, and there was none. And what did he say? Let no more fruit come forth henceforth, forever, forever. So, have we seen any fruit from the nation of Israel after God divorced them and they were destroyed in AD 70? No, we haven't. No fruit They became a nation again in 1948. But the modern nation of Israel is not the ancient Israel of old. The Zionists, they're not practicing the Judaism of the Old Testament, at least not according to Pastor Chuck Baldwin. No, not when you have Tel Aviv, the capital of Israel, relishing the abominations that God condemned, that is, homosexuality and sodomy. No, there's no fear of God before their eyes. Now, let this not be taken as an anti-Semitic remark. I like Jewish people. I have a lot of Jewish friends, okay? I'm talking about Zionists, Zionism, in the modern nation of Israel, who are killing their Palestinian neighbors and locking them up in a concentration camp known as Gaza, all right? I know most churches favor Israel. They don't have a balanced view of things. They're pro-Zionist, and we have to have a balance in everything we see. We have to see both sides. Anyway, I don't want to get diverted onto political matters, but Netanyahu has been indicted by the ICC, I believe, the International Criminal Court. So how he's able to stay out of jail is beyond me. He's got a lot of friends in high positions of power, I guess, that are able to pull strings and keep him out of prison. But he's a wicked man as far as I'm concerned. All right, well, these Psalms, this particular Psalm, Psalm 5, would seem to indicate that David and the Lord Jesus Christ, they have their enemies. We have our enemies. Jesus taught us to forgive our enemies. He said in the Sermon on the Mount, you have heard that it hath been said, you shall, how's it go now? It's a little bit late here at night, but hate your enemy, hate your enemies, I think is what Christ said. But I say unto you, love those that hate you. Pray for those that despitefully use you and persecute you. All right, fine. We can do that. By God's grace, we can do that. But we don't have to condone the evil of those in power who are seeking to destroy the earth. God will destroy them, as I said in my video last night. And we must have the mind of Christ. We must have the mind of Christ. We must preach repentance to have a change of mind. But I'm not sure some of these people can have a change of mind if God has given them over to a reprobate mind. They are condemned in God's eyes. What did Jesus say? He that believeth is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already. Because, for this reason, they believe not in the name of the only begotten Son of God. So, meanwhile, the fires continue to burn. Probably 25 to 30,000 acres have burned at least, maybe more. Now we're up to 16 deaths, if not more. I haven't been following the news recently, but that's the last count, the death toll. Again, think about the disruption. You're sitting there in the comfort of your home right now, maybe watching TV and laughing and smiling while other people are suffering. They've lost their homes. And I know you might not think too much of the celebrities in Hollywood who lost their homes. Mel Gibson just came out with a video, an interview with Laura Ingraham from Fox News, and he said it's like a purification process. He's worth over $400 million, so maybe his $10 million home or $20 million home doesn't represent that much of a loss, but he still had sentimental value. He can replace the furniture in the home. But he had an old Bible or an old book, I think he said, from the 1600s and some other things that were of sentimental value. You can't replace those. They're lost forever. And think about yourself. Whatever is precious to you and dear. Maybe it's your mother or father's old Bible or something. Imagine if your home was destroyed and you lost that. How would you feel? How would you feel if you lost your diary or your journal or maybe some of your children's toys when they were growing up? Think about the destruction of these wicked men, what they've done, how they've disrupted the lives of thousands of people. And I do pray God's judgment upon these people, whoever did that. Well, first, I do pray for their salvation, first and foremost. But again, I don't think there's any salvation for these people. I really doubt it. I think it's too far. They're too far gone. You see, the people that are of a one world mindset, they've sold themselves over to Satan, their father, who's the devil. Anyway. Wow, this is a little bit longer video than normal. It's like 20 minutes, but I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Please share this with others. I'm trying to grow my channel. Share this video with others if you think it'll be a benefit to them and if it has value. And remember, be sober, be vigilant, for your adversary, the devil, like a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Whom? Resist, steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren which are in the world. All right, until we meet again, may the Lord richly bless you. Have a good night.